Therapy with the Houston Camera Exchange. I'm Bernie, the dad you wish you had. Today we have a special guest, a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a while here, the Matthew Weintritt, otherwise known as Matt Weintritt.
Yeah, I'll accept either one. Yeah, thanks for having me. I love your intro. That's kind of hilarious.
Well, that's absolutely true. I never thought I'd ever use that expression, but yeah.
Here I wish you had.
So Matt is awesome. He is our Fuji guy. But more importantly, he is an action sports guy. So tell me what you've been up to, man.
Yeah, so on the Fujifilm side, I mean, I guess it's worth mentioning. It's not every day I get to sit down and talk to people at Houston Camera Exchange. So I used to work here.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, as far as kind of like how I got into the industry and stuff like that, and how I got to where I'm at, I started with straight out of high school, Wolf and Ritz camera, and then so working in a camera store, selling cameras, and then went to school for photography. Graduated from Sam Houston State University with a degree in photography. Started working for a newspaper as a photographer, and then moved back down to Houston. So the newspaper was up in Huntsville, Sam Houston. And moved back down to Houston, started working in a portrait studio here, and then started working at Houston Camera Exchange. And that was honestly like sort of coming full circle. I had mixed feelings about going back to working in a camera store after like getting a degree and like gaining all of this sort of like professional photography world experience. I really wasn't sure how to feel about it until I came here. And surprisingly enough, I grew up in Houston, but this was sort of far enough outside of my circles. And at that time, there were multiple camera stores, like the Wolf and Ritz camera stores that I worked at, that were way closer to me. So I had never been here. And yeah, I know.
That's weird.
I know.
But you basically have had a camera fused to your face since high school.
Yeah, pretty much about that time. I mean, I was always interested in photography when I was younger. I think a lot of people are.
Right.
But I didn't have the means to really get into it until I was, a teenager, basically. And really, it didn't take off until I started working for a camera store and had access and, started to learn a lot more about all the different equipment and stuff. But really, like working here, working with you guys, this is by far the best store in the area. And, especially has been here for what, 40-something years?
50 years.
50 years.
50 years.
Longer than me, so.
Yeah, way longer than me.
But worked here for 3 or 4 years, and then got picked up by Fujifilm as a product technical specialist for them. Did that for 5 or 6 years.
So what's your actual duties now? I mean, what are you called at Fujifilm?
Yeah. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Field technical marketing specialist for motion production. It's like this long.
Did that all fit on a business card?
No.
Dude, I want to see that on a business card.
Takes 2 lines.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, and that's a change a little bit because when I left Houston Camera Exchange to go to work for Fujifilm, I was a product technical specialist. And that's basically a team of what we shorten to PTS. And they're positioned around the country.
Right.
And so my territory basically was the southern central United States. So based here in Houston, I would cover kind of everything up to like Colorado, maybe over to like Tennessee and down.
Wow.
And there was, depending on what time it was over the last 5 years.
That's a lot of territory.
Yeah. Well, there was only, for much of it, there was only 4 of us, sometimes 5.
And it was called PTS. So if you were demonstrators, you guys would be called PTSD?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Great joke. The dad jokes you wish you had.
There you go.
Product technical specialist is what that stands for. And so went to being senior product technical specialist, which just basically means I'd been doing it for a while. And then a position opened up first party with Fujifilm. I went for it, and that's where I'm at now.
Wow.
So the main change with the new position is that little tag at the end for motion production. So as I'm sure we're going to talk about when we get to talking about the cameras a little bit more, Fujifilm has, in the last maybe 3 years or so, really had a significant push in technology development towards video production. And really incorporating, I mean, I think at this point, the XH2S is my go-to camera for pretty much everything.
What are we recording on?
I know it's my workhorse. It is the most versatile hybrid camera that I've ever used, and I love it. Sorry, I keep hitting the table there.
No. And by the way, we are recording on Fujifilm equipment.
Looking at two XH2Ss and an XH2.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See?
Oh, and shout out to Heidel, who's helping us out today. You are the man. We're going to give you his socials. You can follow him as well. Don't forget to follow us. And well, everything just quieted down.
Yeah,
that was weird.
This is the AC.
The AC just shut down. So I said, what happened?
Yeah.
There's a couple of other things I wanted to talk to you about as well. So you ride bikes.
I do ride bikes, yeah.
And all kinds of bikes.
All kinds of bikes, yeah.
So that's one of the coolest things about you is you actually do the stuff that you sometimes take pictures of and record, which is really neat. How's that?
I love it. Honestly, I don't know why it took me so long. I mean, when we were younger and riding BMX and just like running around the streets, doing hood rat stuff with my friends, I was kind of I think like basically the only kid that would show up with a camera. And at that point it was, not to date myself, but you remember Eckerd's?
Yeah, that must be a Texas thing. Remember, I'm from California.
Okay. All right. So Eckerd's was basically like a Walgreens or CVS type of store. And so they had this little, like, if you didn't know better, you'd think it was a disposable camera, but it wasn't. And it was like this little blue plastic camera with like a sliding front. It took 35 millimeter roll film. That was my first camera. And I would just like stick it in my pocket and take it riding bikes with me. And so that was kind of what started it for me.
Do you still have pictures from that camera?
Yeah, I have the pictures. I don't have the camera anymore. I
figured, but if you have pictures, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, actually, like for many of us, I mean, I think that's those photographs are basically the only existing record of what we were doing when we were younger. And,
hold on, are you? You're a millennial, right? You're not me. You're not Gen X. I'm Gen X.
I guess. I don't know. I don't keep track. What are the years? I was born in 87. So.
Yeah, you're a millennial.
Okay. All right.
So, well, one of those things is that you're, I mean, first of all, I really look up to you. You do a lot of cool stuff, and I'm a little envious, man.
It's my goal in life, man.
Yeah.
You just got to do it.
You bust your butt. And a little background: a couple of years ago, you got hit by a car.
I did. Yeah, that's one type of bikes I don't really ride much anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and to get this straight, even after he got hit by a car, right when he was out of the hospital in a little freaking cage, he was still working. That shows you his work ethic and how far he goes to do what he does. So
more importantly, before that, while I was still in the hospital, I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm not done riding bikes. And she was like, can we get you out of the hospital first? And I was like, no, I feel like right now I need to tell you this is not like, I'm not done. It's scary. I get it, but
I have to get back on a bike.
Yeah. And I think I don't know, you hear people talk about that. And of course, like tons of people across the world have all sorts of, I guess, life-altering experiences like
absolutely. That's what makes us people, right?
It's interesting to see like how you react though, like it for yourself, with right. and the sort of things that you think like that without even really putting all of the logical procedural thought into it.
Absolutely.
It's just like that was the one thing that I knew while I was sitting there. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna be getting back on a bike as soon as I can. So
I'm very fortunate. I've fallen off a skateboard many times, but I still skate. Yeah. So yeah. That's a big part of it as well. And that's coming from a 56-year-old. Don't go away, people. Just understand.
I didn't realize you had 20 years on me.
Yeah. I just act younger. That's it. But thank you. I'll take that as a compliment, bro.
Yeah.
So let's get into the really cool stuff. And Fujifilm has been a part of my life personally since 2012. That's when I ditched all my big full frame equipment. And this is when I retired, and I just wanted to do street photography. And I wasn't really getting back into film, but I wanted to get back into film, and I bought my X100S. So the thing that changed it for me was that X-Trans sensor. That was the biggest thing for me because it looks so much like film, but it wasn't film. And from then on, my X100S has 70,000 shots on it, by the way.
Nice.
And then before that, I had this.
Which you recently redecorated.
I redecorated. Yeah. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys have seen this.
That's an X10, right?
That's an X10.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the original pre-X-Trans sensors.
I don't even have one of those.
Oh, yeah. And it was in perfect condition until I marked it up with that brass Sharpie.
I don't know that you should tell people that.
I don't know. It looks cool. So
No, it does look cool. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But the idea that it's in perfect condition, you're like, you know what? Let me just take a marker to this.
Yeah. Well, it's not going to go anywhere. I'm never going to sell it. It's just my camera, and I still take pictures with it. I think I'm going to take it on my trip to Italy. So.
I got to say, when I saw it on Instagram, the post that you put up just recently, it fooled me. I was like,
I didn't know they were made of brass.
What brass? You know, I saw the sticker and I knew it wasn't actually a Leica sticker. It's a Fuji sticker that looks like a Leica sticker. And then I had to look closer to realize, oh, he painted the corners on this thing to make it look like a patina, like a brass patina.
Yeah. Love it.
Well
but
done,
but it's the sensor, and you guys have literally dominated the color field and the color science. And it's nothing against the other brands. They're kind of chasing you guys a little bit.
Well, I think it's just always been our priority. And I think that maybe is where the difference comes from. Fujifilm, I mean, even if you talk to some of the other people at the company as to why we never dropped the word film out of the name, it's because that is who we are. And even as every camera we make outside of Instax, every camera that we're going to talk about today for X series and GFX, they're all digital cameras. They're all mirrorless cameras. We haven't made even like a mirrored DSLR since the early 2000s.
Yeah, that was the
S series.
S series, yeah.
Well, and even those, again, to say like we've always put an emphasis on color. Those had some of the most unique sensors that have ever been made, like the triple CCD and the hexagonal pixels. Like we've done all sorts of innovative, weird things, and I guess that's the thing that really inspires me and excites me about working for Fujifilm is that it's I want to say probably the one company in the photo industry that's just not scared to try something different.
Innovation is something that's really in their alley. They're willing to take chances, and they don't. One of the best things about Fuji is that they're the only company that their customer base will absolutely say, "Oh no, I just shoot their JPEGs."
Yeah.
Nobody says that about any other company.
Right.
Just Fuji. And that's because of the elephant in the room, which is the film simulation modes that you have on there. Nobody's been able to touch that yet. They can come close, and they can come with kind of what that is. And I'm not downplaying any other companies, but that's specific to you guys that you have wrapped around that X-Trans sensor.
Yeah. So we actually have the better part of a century worth of film development and color science to lean on for that.
Right.
So we're not just going in today's world and going, all right, what does good color look like for the creative people that exist in today's world?
Sure.
We have this basically like library of color science and, basically creative individuals over the last, 10 or so decades.
Sure. And I'm going to say this for all the analog enthusiasts, including myself, whoever you have to pray to the God of Fuji, please don't stop making film.
We're not. We're still making film.
Okay.
So you can still buy 35 millimeter, 120, even 4x5.
I know. I'm buying.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Please don't stop making the film because, like I said, it's just It's just awesome. And we sell a ton of it as well.
Good. I love that. I love that film is more popular now than it has been in the last 20 years.
Yeah, and it's great. And people who don't know anything about it are willing to ask questions about it.
Yeah.
It's just weird that, remember back in those days, we used to pay Walgreens or whoever $7 with prints, or Eckert's, yeah. We pay $7.99 and you got prints, right? And you got developed. Yep. Now it's $20 and no prints.
Well, like $7.99 would get you double prints.
Right.
Double 4x6. Yeah. And that's what we used to do. So I could one for me, one to share. So you just take your roll of film. Yeah, $7.49 for whatever reason. It sounds right to me. And you get 2 4x6 prints of each one, and then they like sleeve and cut all of your negatives.
And they're all clean
thing for you.
Yeah. Now you got to do it all yourself. But hey, it's a different age. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now to the cooler stuff. We have your newest, latest, and greatest, the GFX 102.
Yes, we in the United States refer to that as GFX 100 the second.
The second. Yeah. Okay, dokie.
We even made, and if you don't follow us on YouTube, you definitely should. But we have a video series called All Sales Final.
Oh, really?
And it's a very it's funny is what it comes down to. It's really funny. But we kind of poke fun at ourselves sometimes, and in this one in particular, the obvious thing to talk about was the name, because it is GFX 100 space Roman numeral 2, which if you just say that is 102. Oh. And it sounds like the number 102.
Yeah.
Instead of 100 space Roman numeral 2. And of course, people will call it Mark II because there are other manufacturers in the industry that use the word Mark.
Right.
We didn't want to use the word Mark.
Of course.
It's taken already. Mm-hmm. Mark works in accounting.
Right.
Yeah, so it's in the US at least we call it GFX 100 the second.
You heard it here on Photographic Therapy. That is the correct that is the correct nomenclature for this camera.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. Spread it around.
Right. And if you come into the store, you watch us come into the store, I want you to ask for it that way. So that way I know you watched this podcast. Okay. Thank you.
I've also seen, or heard some people calling it GFX 100S2.
Yeah. I was making that mistake for a while.
I want to clarify it's not. So this is the successor to the original GFX 100, the big full-bodied kind of blue steel colored thing that didn't have a removable grip.
Right.
It was all just built as like a big full-size camera.
Is that still on the line?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay.
Yeah, that was the original GFX 100. That was the first 102 megapixel camera that we put. And that's the other thing that makes it a little confusing about the number.
102 megapixels.
Is I always like to joke before that you officially have enough megapixels when you shave off 2 million pixels just to make the name easier to say.
Oh God.
Because it's 100. It is effectively 102 megapixels. 102 million pixels. So we just rounded down. I even have a jacket that says GFX 100 megapixels. And I'm like, but that's not accurate.
Yeah, that's wrong. Well, the other thing is this sensor is different than all the other sensors.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So it's not, is it not an X-trans sensor or?
No, we have not had an X-trans GFX sensor yet. Okay. I say yet because you never know what the future holds. That's not alluding to anything that is happening. Basically, from what I've been told, there's a limited return or like a prohibitive cost barrier there.
Sure.
That's why we haven't had X-trans on GFX before. I'm not really sure what the answer is to why it doesn't exist, but these are Bayer. Yeah, and all 6 of the cameras in the GFX lineup are Bayer sensors.
Yes, but all of your crop sensors right now are all X-trans. You don't necessarily have a Bayer sensor because I think the last Bayer sensor you guys had was the X1. Was it the X1 X200?
XT200.
XT200. That's
and
right.
then so basically the XT100, XT200, both those cameras were Bayer, and then the entire XA line, so XA3, XA5, XA7.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing coming up on that line. Oh, but before we would talk about this again, what's up with that X100V, man?
What about it? It's cool, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Where are they?
They're out there.
Somewhere.
I mean, yeah, ask all the people who've been buying them. They've got them.
Yeah. No, we've had some come in. Yeah, that's probably one of the best marketing things I've ever seen in a long time.
I'll give you a public service announcement on that.
Yeah.
So my general thinking on if you want an X100V is get in line. And there's this fancy thing that happens with lines where, like, if you're standing in line, you'll eventually get to the front of the line, right? If you're not standing in line,
You'll never get
to the front. And so I know I've seen people paying like twice as much as the camera is supposed to cost on eBay.
Dude.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Just come to Houston Camera Exchange and place a back order. They have, I mean, the last time I checked, I think you guys still have like 58 on back order.
We do. It's a more than a 1-year-old back order, but they're coming in.
Yeah.
They're coming in.
We're making them. They're still shipping. It is still a current camera. So any of the rumors that say that it's not a current model or we stopped manufacturing them, those are not true.
You heard it here. Okay.
We are still making them. We are still shipping them.
Okay.
We just can't make enough to meet the demand. And really what that comes down to, and people look at that and they ask, well, why? You know, why don't you just make more? It's like, well, we are making more. But I mean, we forecast what each camera, what we expect it's going to do. We don't want to just make 1 million of something and then not be able to sell it. So we forecast what it's going to be, and we create manufacturing capabilities based on that forecast. And
That's a business. That's a normal business model.
right. And so this is the 5th camera in that lineup.
I had a guy offer me $900 for my X100S,
Yeah.
and it's got 70,000 shots on it. It's not going anywhere. By the way, it's staying with me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I mean, for us to go through 4 iterations, and sure, we did make some pretty dramatic changes on the 5.
Yeah.
On the 5th one, V.
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Oh yeah. If you haven't put that together, X100, no letter. X100S is the second one. X100T is the third one. X100F is the 4th one. Now, what's the problem with 4 and 5?
Told you.
They both start with F, right?
Right.
So 5 had to be V. It's a Roman numeral. V for 5.
Did they make a black one?
Yeah, the V comes in black or silver.
Yeah, because you know what? I've never seen a black one.
Yeah. Honestly, throughout the life of the X100 series, there's been a lot of unique ones. I have a silver and brown X100F, which I absolutely love.
Oh,
Yeah.
just first of all, it's a beautiful camera, and it's a way to get into the X-Trans sensor without having to spend a bunch of money on lenses. But there are other options as well, right? Like an XE4, is that still in the lineup?
Yeah. So I actually, you're asking the wrong person because I don't know off the top of my head, but
Great camera though. The whole XE series is a great camera. But on top of that is the XT series, which is the XT5. So
yeah, XT5. So
flying off the shelves, by the way, here at the Houston Camera Exchange.
if you're looking for current models that have kind of that retro styling that we're known for,
Right.
not quite as retro as your Sharpied up X10 there, but yeah, current models would be like the XT32.
Yeah.
And we do just call that one XT32 because, well,
Like
actually, I guess
32?
We should have made it the same.
The second.
XT30, the
second.
second.
Yes. Because now it's also it's an XT32.
No, it's not.
X32.
It's XT3 X-T30 space Roman numeral 2.
Okay.
So we should have called it the second also.
But those are widely available, been around for a while. Wonderful X-Trans sensors. If you've never seen what an X-Trans sensor looks like, go to Fuji's website and look at the pictures. Download. You guys have raw files that they can download from there as well, right?
I think some of the cameras do have raw files. Some of them have JPEGs. There's sample images up there that you can look at and play around with.
The other thing is that how is working on those? I mean, what are you suggesting for working on Fuji raw files now? Because I know for a while there, Adobe was not really doing so well with like Lightroom was not doing so well with opening the Fuji raw files.
So it's basically for those of you who may or may not know what we're talking about when we're talking X-Trans. X-Trans, just to make it quick, uses a 36 pixel pattern. We call it semi-randomized, whereas Bayer is a 4-pixel pattern. So if 4 pixel is 2 greens, a red, and a blue, and that's just repeated however many millions of times to make up your sensor. So with the X-Trans, it's basically a much larger repeated pattern, so 36 pixels, and there's just one green X across the middle, which I have to imagine is where the X came from.
Right.
But when you're looking at it, you get each color on each axis, which is not what happens with Bayer.
Which is what gives it that film look. And in the high ISOs, it looks more like, it doesn't look like noise. It looks more like grain.
Yeah, so that's the larger pixel pattern. Or semi-randomized. So when you do push, any CMOS sensor, well, any sensor to its higher ISO capabilities, you're going to get some noise. But yeah,
the noise on your sensors look way prettier.
Right, it's more organic looking. Because it's semi-randomized, so it looks more like film grain than it does digital noise. Less pixely looking. Yeah. So I definitely appreciate that. But really, the reason that we did it was to get rid of the low pass filter on the sensor,
sharper images,
without introducing Moiré. So basically, Moiré is the problem. And one of the solutions is to put a low-pass filter on your sensor, which is basically like a piece of glass that splits the light right at the last second.
It makes it softer.
And it softens the image, but it does reduce the effects of Moiré. And that's what, most people do. We didn't want to have softer images, but we also didn't want to have Moiré. So, and the problem, what creates Moiré is basically when that highly repetitive pattern of that 4-pixel Bayer pattern sort of starts to line up with something in the image.
And by the way, that's Bayer, Bayer, not Bear, Bear. Just so you know.
Bayer.
Yeah.
And so then you get that sort of weird, like stripy banding sort of Moiré thing. Happens a lot on clothing and
anything like hound's tooth and plaids tend to, okay, back to this cool camera, the GFX 100 the second.
Yep.
Tell me about it, man. 100 megapixels, dude. That's a lot.
102
megapixels. That's a lot of megapixels.
Yeah. So as far as the megapixels go, I mean, that obviously is more than most cameras on the market have. It is still the highest resolution camera that we offer. But that's probably not the most exciting talking point about this camera because we've made 2 other 102 megapixel cameras.
So what is the exciting talking point, Matt?
Let's get to that part. So with this being built to replace the original GFX 100, we did incorporate a removable viewfinder.
Cool.
As far as the viewfinder goes, this is by far the best viewfinder I have ever looked through.
Yes, I've tried it. It absolutely is.
9.44 million dots of resolution, so tons and tons of detail. And with the 5th generation processor that's in this camera, we can refresh that viewfinder at 120 frames per second. As far as other accessories available for this, I mentioned that the viewfinder comes off. That's for a couple of different reasons. One is if you wanted to use this for a cinema rig, maybe put it on a drone or cage it up and set it up as a crash cam or anything like that, you don't really need the viewfinder, so you can just take that off, and it comes with a cover that actually covers the top of the camera there. And then this accessory is also available. So I'll go ahead and put it on here. So the viewfinder slides onto the top here, and then this just slides in where that was. This is called a tilt adapter. And so basically what we've got here is 45 degrees of tilt either direction this way and 90 degrees this way. So the reason I would want to do that is, let's just say I'm a portrait photographer working in studio all day, where I do a lot of vertical photographs. I can attach my vertical grip here. So I've got all my vertical controls mirrored here. And then I can tilt this up and lock it. And now I can be much more stable, keep my elbows in, and work like this. So basically just adds a little bit of flexibility. Maybe you're on a tripod, you want to be able to look down into the camera. So that's a nice accessory. That was also introduced with the original GFX 50S. So if you have that from one of the older GFXs, it works. It's the same thing. even with the increased resolution of this viewfinder, the tilt adapter is the same. And it even has a 240 frame per second equivalent mode.
I noticed very little lag.
Yeah, so basically if you're trying to track
any.
moving subjects, you talked to me earlier a little bit about taking pictures of people riding bikes. It's
Right.
a pretty fast moving subject, especially when they're flying through the air and doing fun stuff. So having something with a fast refresh rate allows me to track that moving subject more accurately. So it's definitely a welcomed addition. We have that on the XH2S, the XH2 as well. But
being able to shoot sports type stuff on a medium format camera,
yeah,
that's almost obnoxious.
I mean, I've done it before. I did it on the 100S.
Right.
That was 5 frames per second. Definitely like a slower, more methodical process than something like the X series, like the XH2S, or even at the time, I think I was using an XT3 or XT4. You could do it. And there certainly were people out there shooting, wildlife, action, sports, moving subjects with GFX.
So if you did crop it down to 24 by 36 millimeters, which this does have that crop mode, I believe. How many megapixels is that crop mode?
I want to say it's about 60.
Wow.
It tells you. I can just look.
Yeah, I haven't looked through the menu yet.
Yeah, so when we go...
That's why you're here. Well, it's a round figure. It's about 60 megapixels.
I think it's about 60. Yeah.
Wow. The other thing, too, is as if 100 megapixels wasn't enough.
100 million.
100 million pixels. 100.
I like
it
saying
has,
every once in a while.
It has a 400 megapixel
Pixel shift.
Pixel shift.
Yeah. So GFX was the first line to have the pixel shift mode added. We now have that available in the 240 megapixel cameras in X series as well, the XT5 and the XH2.
I can't wait where stabilization gets good enough where you can take portraits that way.
Yeah. So the new thing on pixel shift is we actually do have just a simple 4-pixel or four shot mode.
4 frames,
which will do accurate color, which is a pretty neat thing too, because it basically removes the need for demosaicing. So basically you put each pixel color, red, green, or blue, on each individual pixel site, and you're still producing a 102 megapixel image, but there's no guesswork. So demosaicing is basically the process where you're processing an image, and you need to figure out what color it is. Each pixel only sees the colors of light that are allowed through the color filter.
Right. So, that translates to one big clean picture.
Yeah. So it takes out the guesswork.
Right.
Because normally demosaicing uses the neighboring pixels of other colors to figure out, let's say it needs to be yellow.
Right.
How do you get that? It's whatever that one pixel saw plus the color information from the ones around it. So if you have that red, green, and blue pixel information from each pixel site, there's no guesswork as to what color it is. So that's why we call it accurate color. And it's pretty dang cool.
No, it absolutely. I haven't seen anything in that mode yet. So you're gonna have to show it to me later.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
On top of that, this is a 16-bit sensor. True 16-bit sensor. So there are some other cameras on the market that will produce a 16-bit file, but they're doing it off of a 14-bit sensor. So again, it's kind of like a guesswork, or
is it a type of interpolation, or
sure,
whatever
you want to call making it up. Yeah, it's so this is a true 16-bit sensor. Now the 16-bit mode is only available in still like single image capture.
Sure.
So
because 100 megapixels isn't enough.
Yeah. So I guess to finish talking about pixel shift, you're right. Yeah. There is another mode where it does accurate color and produces a larger image. So it puts all of those, moves the image sensor around. So you want to make sure the camera is stationary, and it captures 16 images, and it puts them together. Does
that include the film simulation modes as well? So they can do it in a film simulation mode, or does it do it in a raw mode?
No, so it actually ends up creating like a DNG file.
Okay.
And they're combined in our Pixel Shift Combiner software, which is a free software download. So it captures the files, you load those in there, and
so we can
does it for you.
I just noticed something. Then this is it's kind of like a dual RAW format. Then you can shoot RAF files from the original Fuji RAW, and it'll create a DNG file, which is considered also a RAW file.
Yeah, so DNG is not actually a selectable file type in the camera.
Right.
It's just used for the pixel shift mode.
But if you download that file as a DNG, it can be treated as a RAW file.
So the DNG is what you get after the combiner.
Right.
Yeah.
So because if you were to download it in Adobe Photoshop or in Lightroom, it treats it like a RAW file. It gives you that.
DNG does.
DNG does, yes.
DNG is a RAW file.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you heard that here first as well.
Yeah.
So-
you want to run through a couple more highlights on here real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
I'll just give you the run through. So so basically we talked a little bit about the refresh rate on the viewfinder being speed centric. The fastest camera we had before as far as still captures go was 5 frames per second. This one now does 8.
Yeah, which is fast.
Which is nice and fast, especially given the sensor size. We also incorporated the CF Express Type B card, so that can accept that information a lot faster. We actually doubled the buffer size as well, from 64 gigabit to 128 gigabit.
Obviously, the ultimate medium format.
So you can just keep shooting. And so again, when you're capturing action or even just doing anything, I think, people talk about speed like it only matters to action.
Right.
And I haven't met anyone to this day that likes something slow.
No, because action photography also means taking pictures of your kids.
Sure.
Toddlers.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, or even if I just pick
Animals.
up the camera and point it at you and I want it to take a picture,
Yeah.
I don't want there to be any shutter lag. I don't want to wait. I don't want to be sitting there like trying to focus. Nobody, even to just take one picture, wants to wait for the camera to take a picture. You just want it to react and do what you want it to do. And this camera does that.
Man.
Yeah.
Can I have one?
Sure.
For free?
No. I do need to talk a little bit about video.
Okay.
So this is the first time that we've incorporated the full-size HDMI on the
Sweet.
GF lineup. And then we even add in the same menu anamorphic 35 millimeter with D-squeeze options. So you can do different magnification amounts, 2x, 1.8x, 1.5, 1.33, or 1.3. And then you can choose to have the D-squeeze displayed during recording or not. Into the frame rates and resolutions. So this is the first GFX camera that will record ProRes internally. So ProRes codecs internally, but if you want to do ProRes RAW or Blackmagic RAW, you can do that through that full-size HDMI. Basically 8K capable, 4K 60, 8K 30.
Full sensor?
So 4K uses the entire width of the sensor and does that up to 60 frames per second. 8K is a crop. And then speaking of crop, this has been called the Swiss Army knife of basically cinema cameras, because when you go in here, you have all sorts of different formats for different lenses. So
ARRI-PL
or whatever will
Yeah.
come in and select a lens for a specific look. And whatever camera you attach it to needs to be able to adjust to that lens. Or you need to get the right lens or the right camera for that lens, rather, right?
How about recording time unlimited?
There's no limit, yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And then one of the other sort of firsts on this guy is Frame IO is built into the camera. So just as you're seeing it sitting here by itself, of course, we introduced the first Frame IO camera to cloud capable, no third-party accessories needed with the XH2S, but it did need a first-party accessory. It needed the grip. This one has a grip, but this is back to being just a vertical battery grip with vertical controls and 2 extra batteries in it. So get it if you want it, but you don't need it to do the Frame IO camera to cloud. It's now built into the camera, which is great.
Well, there you have it, folks. The god of cameras, at least in my opinion. And by the way, everything here is my opinion. I'd like to thank Matt and Fujifilm for coming in today.
Yeah.
He's going to be hanging out with us today, but this is an awesome camera. I'd like to thank Heidel. Thank you, buddy. Follow him at what's your
Chacon.js.
what was it?
Chacon.js.
Okay, chacon.hs.
JS.
JS. There you go. And of course, my wonderful producer, Magic Mike Lopez. No,
He's like, I'm cut.
I didn't. I said Lopez. I meant Lazo. I was thinking of something else. Magic Mike Lazo. Follow him as well. He is my left hand, my right hand, and if it wasn't for him, none of this gets done. I appreciate it. Thank you, man. And this is Bernie, the dad you wish you had, signing off for Houston Chem Exchange and Photographic Therapy. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Cheers. Thanks.